cards. We have question cards that if you would like to add a question to our list, we may be able to get to it. We're going to start here. Pardon me? I need a mic. Well, Hello. What we're going to do first is we're going to do the Estes Valley Rec Center first. There are 3 candidates for the 2 seats, and I believe all 3 candidates are here. And if they would take their seats, Dan, would you also come on up and take your seat up here? We don't believe that this forum will be nearly as long because there are fewer candidates. So this forum will last about a half an hour or so, maybe. And then when we're done with that, we'll have these people step down and the fire district candidates will step up and we'll do that forum. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who don't know, my name is Patty Brown. I'm the editor of the Estes Valley Voice. This is Susie Blackhurst.
I don't turn so well these days. Turning is a real hard skill for me.
And Susie has really been the powerhouse behind organizing our forum today. So with that said, we're right at 2 o'clock, and I think we'll get started here in the interest of time. So again, thank you for coming today. And I also want you to know that at 5:30 tomorrow afternoon, in the same room, same location, the Estes Valley, the League of Women Voters of Estes Park will be hosting a candidate forum for the candidates who are running for the hospital board. There are 2 candidates on that board seats, two board seats that will be open tomorrow. And the candidates will meet here at 5:30 for the same type of a format that we're going to do here today. Susie, any other thoughts? Or do you want to explain the questions at all?
When we get to the question period, each candidate will get a chance. Oh, we have 3 of you. After all, great. Each candidate will begin their afternoon with us by giving an opening statement. Once they have all finished that, they will each get an opportunity to answer a question. Once they have answered that question, and I believe I have to look at the cheat sheet to find out, they each get a time to answer that question. Oh, this is the wrong sheet of paper.
Oh, I've got the right one. I think the candidate form timeline.
Yeah.
I got it.
Oh, well, you know, when 2 people use the same printer in the same household, sometimes you grab their papers at the same time. Each person will have a chance to answer a question at 90 seconds each, minute and a half for each question that they answer. After that, they will get 2 minutes to wrap up after they answer questions from the audience. And we have questions that have been submitted in advance. Each of you will get an opportunity to ask another question if you have one. You can raise your hand. You can submit it if you have something written. And we'll come around and gather those questions that you have in writing. If you want an index card and a pencil or something to write on, we will collect those. If you have them, let me know, and I'll come get them. Once all the questions are done, we will give each of the candidates 2 minutes to wrap up and give a final statement. After that, any questions? Do you guys have any questions? You have to turn them on. You get a little green light.
See that?
See the green light on your mic?
If you touch that, you're on. And I believe only one mic can be on at a moment. Is that correct? Correct. I'm sorry, what?
Except for Derek's will always be on.
Oh, Derek.
Good afternoon to all of you. I'll just give you a brief idea of who I am and what I'm about. Career-wise, I started off in higher education in North Dakota, beautiful, the frozen tundra. And I was in higher ed administration with the North Dakota University system for about 6 years and I was director of learning services and student support services and grant programs, and then got into the business world, corporate America, United Healthcare. Many of you are aware of United Healthcare, and I was with them for about 2 decades and I oversaw their global member eligibility operations unit for several years. More recently, my wife and I got into real estate and property management in beautiful Estes Park, Colorado. And so we've been enjoying that for the last few years. My family, I have a wife and 3 kids. One still lives with us. And EVRPD, Estes Valley Rec and Park District, is wonderful. I've been on the board for 1.5 years and acting treasurer currently. Tom is amazing. The director and the staff are just really some of the finest folks I've met. And it's a really well-run organization. I'd love to stay on and do a full term.
Thank you.
I think you're not green yet.
You need to push your button.
Aha, thank you. New to this. Hi, I'm Eric Dorman. I am serving right now as the lead pastor of the Christian Church of Estes Park, but what's I think more important to this is my wife Amy and myself were born and raised here in Estes Park, and grew up enjoying all the Park and Rec District things, enjoying the sports that they had. Started coaching football in 2003 for the high school, and also then moved down and helped coach youth leagues, baseball, football, all those things, all the way through and back in high school the last 6 years. So I love sports, I love activities, but one thing I love is also our community, Estes Park. And the reason I wanted to run for this position, my dad, I think, is term limited out. He's been serving, loves it, and he mentioned it to me he said, I think this is something you might like. So I talked with him about it. I went and I talked with Tom down in, as he was at the office there, and I really think this is an area where the community comes together. And Estes Park oftentimes has more guests in town than we have community members, and the community does need a place to connect, and I really believe the rec district is exactly serves that purpose. So I think it's an area where just the experience from being a parent that raised a kid through the school district, being a kid in it, also being a coach all the way in the midst of it, I see the value of the rec district, and I would love to be able to support it. That's it.
Derek?
You don't have to turn yours off, I guess. Derek Vinci. I have an Edward Jones office here in town. I moved here in 2016. During that time, I've served on many different boards, from Rotary, EVPC, onto the Chamber, the Estes Park Nonprofit Network, and the Legion Foundation as well. I'm terming out of the Chamber, and that's part of the reason that I have time in my calendar to allocate toward this. At Edward Jones, I serve in a couple different leadership capacities as a recruiting leader, growth leader, as well as an advisor coach. Personally, I have 2 young boys, 13 and 14, and we enjoy many of the different things here in town, from the marina or the community center. I mean, they still love the lap pool at 13, 14. I can't explain it, but they love it. And so, in addition to having children, serving over 300 families financially here in town, I have a breadth of the community, and I see the needs and concerns with those different levels of constituency. I believe my background in finance, as well as having family who's in the age that use the different opportunities that we have in the rec district, I think it's a good fit. One thing that's unique compared to the other 2 forums, I don't think that there's a huge need for change as much as strategic leadership and continuing for the health for the long term.
Thank you.
At this point, we move on to questions. We have a few that have already been submitted. If I can find them. Are there any from the audience for these candidates? They're not there?
One of the questions that we received in the email system has to do with the affordability of the rec district membership, okay, for families. We know that families have a struggle time up here sometimes to make ends meet. Cost of living is high. What, if anything, do you think that the board of directors can do or should do in terms of setting policy or guiding the rec district with making the rec district facilities perhaps more affordable to families? You want to go back in alphabetical order again?
I can start.
Sure.
I believe the rec district is one of the least tax dependent districts that we have. 67% runs on operating revenue. Therefore, I think we'd have to look at opportunities to increase revenue through other things, whether that would be increasing cost for the campgrounds, which is going to be primarily tourists, not taking things out of the pockets of our population. As far as what the board can do, the board can vet what staff brings us as ideas or what the community brings us. However, I don't know that the board directly can just set a precedent. We have to take a look at, what comes in and what goes out as far as revenue before we can make any sweeping changes. However, I think looking at the affordability for senior citizens is one thing, particularly around year memberships. When it comes to silver sneakers, the reimbursement only comes every time someone uses it, not on an annual basis. So if we can find programs to get seniors there more often, that would increase revenue right there by getting the silver sneakers payments. So just one thought.
Aaron?
Yeah, I'd agree. We want to stay away from anything tax-wise, but in that, part of I think what the board does is they look strategically as to what kind of programs we're putting out in the community. And I think there's a lot of low-cost ways that you can help get people exercising or using facilities and things like this. I think volunteerism in Estes Park is underutilized. And in fact, being a lead pastor at a church is when I kind of work a whole lot with engaging our community and using their gifts and ability to serve. I think that'd be something that would look at engaging into our community and bringing more of our people to allow there to be better programs, especially for younger families, which seem to be the ones that have the more of a cost being priced out of having connection into these. So I would look at that. I think also, I didn't realize about this silver sneaker thing. That's a great idea. I think there's a lot of other ones out there, but I think it's making the most use of what we have, the facilities, engaging our community to helping people connect. And I think that would be the best way of expanding the offerings of the rec district to impact our community the best.
Dan, what are your thoughts about making it affordable and accessible to families and individuals in the community?
Well stated. One thing that the community center did this, I think it was January, they had a week or two where they had a 25% off run for anyone who wanted to participate and get annual memberships, and that was very successful. Every year they kind of throw out different ideas and make affordability options or present them. And I think that's a good one, but I guess the main thing would be to get the word out that that's happening and make sure it's truly out to everybody. And we can even be a little bit more aggressive potentially, but you said it well that, we are stewards of the community's money and we have to be very careful about how we do that.
Very good. Given that the majority of Estes Park residents are senior citizens, and you've already mentioned the silver sneakers, what do you believe the district can do to better serve this segment of our population? And I'm going to back that up with just a little bit more information. recently we had some statistics. We had an article about the population in Estes. We have 40% is 65 and older. So there's a lot of focus on that group. In addition, and I know that Aaron Dorman has done a lot of youth ministry work, and you have also been a coach, right? A high school football coach, is that right? Okay. So those are two really important community groups, both the seniors as well as the youth. What does the rec center do right now that we could be doing more of or better of with either of those two groups? Do we need to be serving one more than we are?
Boy, I see both groups in full force every time I'm there at the community center. But I'm sure there are some that either aren't aware of it and everything that's offered, or they priced out of the market, so to speak. So I guess I would just, pickleball, we're working on getting more pickleball courts available this summer, and we've really been listening to the community and what they want. The youth programs, I see more younger people in the weight area every day and on the basketball courts. It just seems like it's increasing in popularity among that age group as well. So I have to think about that maybe a little bit more, but go ahead.
Yeah, I would add to some of those ideas. I believe that people connect relationally by being present, and they have to have some type of identity. One of the things that's been a tragedy is people move to Estes, they retire here, but they don't connect in community, and then they isolate in their house or the retirement. And as a pastor, what I find, if somebody stops living for things, they start dying, and that's not what we want. So it really is important for the mental health and the community health for us to, I think that's what the rec district can do in a large way, creating spaces to meet other people. You could do that leagues, you can do that with having, it could be just some place to go and be there consistently to meet others. And so part of that is being very thoughtful about what kind of programs that are being offered. It's not just the spaces that we have, but how we're utilizing them to help people gain a sense of community with other people. And as you build that, it's kind of self-generating. Then it's easier to see people being invited, and I think it serves every segment of the population as we create those environments.
Yeah, in addition to that, from a revenue standpoint, I think if you talk with particularly the senior subset of our population, they spend a lot of time, a lot of money. It's what am I getting back out of this? And I think through things like some partnership with Visit Estes Park to make sure that we're getting the visitors, and we're looking at creating more revenue maybe in the campgrounds in the marina, then we can reallocate some funds back over toward the community center to then either lower potential prices for family. The discount must have been great because January's numbers were way up year over year at the community center for membership. And then, we have a foundation that is also tied to the Parks and Rec District that does some things around scholarships and can reduce prices for junior athletes, and doesn't mean we can't do it for senior programs either. It's just a new idea to bring to the table, but where do we bring the revenue in that we can reallocate it? And I think that is leveraging the tourism. I also think that's where increasing prices is probably going to get less pushback. Our golf course for visitors or tourists, it's pretty captive. You're not going to drive down to U Creek. You're not going to drive down to Mariana Butte because you didn't like the price from last year, but our locals will balk if those prices go up for them. So I think it's looking at the different pockets and where you can strategically find more revenue.
I'd like to ask you next a little bit about your own utilization of the Recreation and Park District facilities and programming, and what do you benefit most from or get the most out of? What do you do? Are you golfers? Are you track runners? Do you walk the water pool? What do you do?
Sure, I'll start. I've used the rec center quite a bit, just regular exercise in the morning and get to know people that way. Also, I used to work at the golf course years and years ago when I was in high school, but I'm a horrible golfer, but who knows? But I've used it a few times. It's nice. The marina, like fishing, but also the lake walk. beautiful out there. I haven't used any of the camping because I have a bed here in Estes, so I haven't really done any of that, but I'd be happy to go and take a look at those things. So yeah, I think my family has used a lot of the rec district thing and have benefited, but also the programs. I raised my kid up through that, the soccer, the baseball, all the programs that they offer for youth have been just a real benefit to me and my family.
We first got our community center membership when we were building our house 4.5 years ago. We were living in a camper on our lot, and we needed a place to shower. So we got that membership, but we use it every day. We've had the membership for those 4.5 years. And the golf membership, I had a driving range membership for many years, and now I'm a member at the golf course, and the gun range as well. We've been members for 5 years now, and we love the trails, of course, and the Lake Estes walk, and use those. But we don't camp either because we live here.
Derek?
So it's been a bit of a smattering throughout the years. I golf plenty when the markets are strong. You won't see me out there right now. So that one doesn't fly as well. But also through the chamber, I sponsor the Chamber Cup annually, and that's one of the biggest revenue drivers for the Chamber of Commerce. I've sponsored boat trips through ENN, like boat days. I think for me, it's more that the opportunities are available. I've certainly walked the lake. I've been to the community center. I was just there last weekend shooting hoops with my boys. I love going in and seeing it, or when I have clients come into my office and they've still got wet hair from swimming laps. I like seeing it used more than probably the use I've gotten out of it, as you can tell. Certainly not track runner, to your point. But for me, I look at it. I've my kids, my clients who are mainly seniors, and then their grandkids too are starting to come and visit, and for them to have an outlet is fantastic. And
Very good.
pickleball's huge. I mean,
Pickleball's huge. I've never played pickleball. I used to be a tennis player, but I've never played pickleball. Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any closing statements or anything that you'd like to add before we change forums here and switch to the fire district? Yes. Yes, Chris, go ahead.
I love the rec center. I'm there at least 4 days a week. I play pickleball. Okay. Great. It's a great place. I feel Estes, we're very fortunate to have a place like that. And I'm excited because we're getting new courts, 8 courts outdoors, which is also fantastic. Now, indoor, it's a little bit different, and there are some conflicts. You come there, and they're being all used, or then there's basketball, and there's other things, which I understand. And pickleball is a growing sport. Are there plans, or how can this be improved that there's more indoor courts available?
Definitely a need, and we hear it a lot. Our starting point is outdoor. That's easier, less expensive. But to have more indoor space, we just have to figure out a way, and it's going to be a financial challenge at this point. But it is on the radar, and I just can't give you a good answer there, but it is on the radar, just like the outdoor ones were for several years, finally taking some action on it.
I think it's great that that's being utilized so much that we're running into space problems. That's wonderful. And with that, obviously, you're going to have competing needs. I think you have to figure out a schedule. That's going to be the best way to meet the needs of most people right now while there's constraints. Looking ahead, I think part of the vision would be if this is something that becomes financially available to us or smart to be able to add on, that's not going to hinder the rest of the ministry or the work of the district, then yeah, then I think that would be appropriate to look at more indoor courts. But right now, I think the lowest cost and easiest way is just look at scheduling to make sure that we're utilizing the space the best possible way we can and with the time that we have.
The only thing that I would add is, we're obviously limited with the indoor space. However, outdoors with the new courts, potentially looking at some windscreens or things like that so you can get longer usage out of it, just to increase your outdoor season. However, it's something that I know the way the board is structured, if you want to bring this to a board meeting to raise it as a topic, and then we can assign it to Tom and the community center to start to research potential solutions.
Are there any more audience questions? If not, do you have closing statement that you would like to make, any of you?
I will just say thank you for your time. As we kind of talked about it, I know this board isn't necessarily in need of as much attention as some of the others in town. I am not up here to compete with these guys. I think all of us came to the table thinking that we could help if we were on the board. And that's what the goal is here, is to help the mission to create the longevity and the future of all the different facilities that the rec district has. And I know, and Dan could probably speak to it more, but there's a lot of challenges when you have Federal Bureau of Reclamation land as well as town land and how funding works. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. I took a look at the last board packet, and it was 96 pages long. So things are happening. I know it doesn't get as much attention out there. However, this is very important, and there's a lot of activity that helps both tourists and our community.
Again, thank you also for being here, and it means a lot that the community is engaged enough to come even and talk about maybe a lower level election that would be like this, but it is really important. Our town needs community deeply, and the rec district can help provide that. And so I don't see it as a small thing or a tiny district that it's not as important. I think it's really important. And it's part of the life or the soul of Estes Park, especially as we try to find definition amongst all the guests that we get to share this valley with. And so what I would like to be able to bring, if you would trust me with it, is that sense of community. I grew up here. I love our community. I love Estes Park, and I love the people that are here. Do our best to be able to be good stewards of the space to make sure that it helps everyone connect in a way that they feel welcomed, they feel seen, and they're also able to connect.
Thank you for putting this on. That's my final word. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate, as does the Estes Valley Voice, all three of you being here. It has made a difference to those who are in the audience, and appreciate very much your participation. Thank you so much. We'll take a small break while we change seats and change a little bit of the scenery and move on to our forum for fire district candidates.
Josh, where are you? Jeff, where are you? Jeff Robbins? Jeff, you were here a minute ago. Okay. John's here. Okay. One thing that I do want to remind all of our panelists to do, all of our candidates, please lean into your microphone, okay? I just got word from one of the audience members that they had a hard time hearing when you sit back. If you sit back, your mic won't pick up well. Here comes Jeff. So timing-wise, very good. Yes, I hear you. What? We're good. If I think it's time for us to get started with the second half of our forum this afternoon. Again, I want to thank you very much for coming this afternoon to hear these two forums, and I want to remind you to come back tomorrow night at 5:30 for the League of Women Voters of Estes Parks Forum with the candidates for the hospital. I'm going to start by asking each of our candidates here this afternoon to introduce themselves, but I'm going to explain that one of our candidates is on Zoom. She's in New York today with one of her kids who has had some pretty significant surgery, and she's there for some follow-up with him. Sandra, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I think, let me see what's the best way to do this. From our IT person, can you tell me if you are picking up Sandra's information? Sandy, just say a few words to us. Say hello. So that I know if
Hello,
he's...
hi. How are you all? I'm sorry I can't be there
Are
today.
you good? Can you hear her? Okay, but can the audience hear her? Okay. I wonder if we turn on this mic when she talks and put this closer to here. Sandy, I want you to say a few more words to us. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry I cannot be with you today. Can you hear me?
That's better. That's going to work. It's not perfect, but it's going to work, and it will also get picked up. And so we will get a thumb drive with the recording of today's forum, and we will upload that to the Estes Valley Voice's website. So you will be able to watch this or share this with others. And so this will also get picked up. So Sandy, I'm going to ask you if you will start with an introduction. Tell us who you are.
All right. Well, good afternoon. My name is Sandy Smith. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but it was unfortunately unavoidable given the issue that I'm here addressing. I have owned a home in Estes Park for over 20 years, and I've lived there for 3. I am an attorney in town. I've just recently opened a law practice with my partner, Bob Willett. I'm running because I think that my background and experience is such that I can contribute to the management efforts, financial stewardship, and governance practices of the EVFPD. My background is I was practicing litigation attorney for more than 30 years in both private practice as well as the head of the litigation division at Apple Computer, where I managed the staff of that division, its budget, and the global defense of its strategic intellectual property efforts at the time that I was there. I've also served on numerous boards, both public and private. My expertise tends to fall in the area of governance best practices. And given some of the recent issues with compliance and open records issues and various transitions that have occurred on the board, I believe that my background in governance makes me uniquely suited to assist and help the board. So I initially self-nominated because I thought that I could provide some assistance and help.
Very good. Thank you, Sandy. Chris, would you introduce yourself to us?
Okay.
All right. First off, I would like to thank all of you for showing your interest and taking the time to be here. And also a thanks to the Estes Valley Voice for organizing this forum. My name, Christopher Buser. I go by Chris. I'm 63 years old, married to my wife, Melissa, 40 plus years, 3 sons, my oldest son living in Germany, the other 2 living in Superior. Through a good friend of mine, I was asked to apply for the Estes Valley Fire Board position, which had recently become vacant. Admittedly, at the time, I did not know what I was getting into. Since 2024, I'm proud to be an active board member and co-treasurer, and I'm honored to be part of this incredible organization. I also work for the Estes Valley Land Trust, monitoring properties, and I am also a member of the Estes Valley Watershed Coalition, which also is a great organization and have similar goals. My background educational is I have a bachelor's degree and a business degree, which I completed in Germany, comparable to a master's degree. And I grew up in New Jersey, lived in Germany for almost 30 years, worked for an international company based in Norway. I'm going to need like 30 seconds more, please. During that time, when I was I also lived in India for 1.5 years, where I was the managing director for a large manufacturing site. Together with my wife and my youngest son, we moved back to the States from Germany in 2011 in Charlotte, North Carolina. My position was Vice President, North America, where it was my responsibility to expand and establish our business in US, Mexico, and Canada. Meanwhile, March 31st, 2023, I'm happily retired. I think we can be a little bit lenient here. I'm almost done. My hobbies, hiking, rock scrambling, skiing, pickleball, walking my 12-year-old lab. And what's important to be spending time with my family, the nature, which means wildlife and vegetation, sports, and being involved in the local community. And through my career, working for a global company which specializes in transformers and power supplies, I have acquired over 25 years of expertise in areas such as financial analysis, human resources, and strategic planning. Through my work experience, I have learned to tackle difficult situations head-on while keeping the communication lines open. I'm not afraid to express. Okay. Okay.
Hi, thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. My name is Robert Foster. I've lived here for about 15 years now in Estes Park or Estes Valley. I'm a former firefighter. I'm a business owner. I have some public board experience with the Estes Valley Planning Commission when it existed. And what other thing I want to say about myself is I'm really passionate about fire prevention and fire suppression, and have been since I was a firefighter in Oregon and California doing wildland firefighting for the U.S. Forest Service. Now here's a spoiler alert. This is sort of my vision for the future of the board if I'm on it. I think the board should serve the fire department and the public and not itself. I think most of you know what that means. That means no secrecy. That's my campaign. Secondly, I support the current mix of paid and volunteer firefighters. Third, I want to educate and encourage the education of the public on what the fire department does. The fire department, as most of you here know, does a whole lot more than just fire calls and responding to alarms. There's a whole rescue side of it. There's a water side of it. And I'd like the public to know more about that, so when it comes time for mill levy elections and things of that nature, people are enthusiastic about supporting their fire department. Fourth, I want to focus on prevention education, and part of that includes not just safe space around the house, but I think people need to understand, or I'd like for people to understand, the importance of the contents of the house relative to how easy it is to suppress a fire there. For those of you who are interested in fire suppression in residences, and to realize that houses nowadays contain considerably more petroleum-based products that they did in the old days, and what an effect that could have. Finally, I want to encourage the board to be part of the effort to support the fire department within the Estes Valley community. Thank you very much.
Ryan?
Good afternoon, Ryan Leahy, lifelong resident, grew up here. I've been on, joined the Navy at about 17 years old. Was a firefighter in the Navy as well. Came back and was seeking that camaraderie, the ability to give back to my community. After the flood, I thought it was probably important to do that in an organized fashion and be trained in doing so, so I joined the fire department. It's been amazing experience, one I hope to continue as long as I'm here in town, and I have no intentions of leaving by any means. So I will take 2 years away from operations in order to serve on the board if I'm elected. Something I don't take lightly. The reason I went for a 2 instead of 4 is because I would have to go back through academy if I did anything more than 2 years. Fire department's one of the best organizations I've ever been a part of. It really is. We've seen some changes come through. It's hard to watch changes and feel like you don't have the ability to make a difference in those changes, I guess, or maybe you could do better with those changes. So in this role, I hope to have a better understanding of the other side of the fire department, outside of operations, and bring that hometown just understanding to it, keep the culture going that we have while figuring out how we can continue to serve the community. Thanks.
I'm Josh Leeds. I've been living in Estes Park for 8 years, just a couple weeks shy of 8 years. I moved here from Chicago with my wife. We've been together for 24 years, just shy. The first time I encountered wildland fire was being evacuated. I really didn't have any conception of it before then. I did volunteer for the Estes Park Explorer Post, and that interacted with the fire department. We interacted with fire department members, paramedics, things like that. That was my first introduction to the Estes Valley Fire Protection District. And after being evacuated, I started paying attention. I started mitigating fire in my property. I started, honestly just paying attention. We had the wildland fire. Well, we had Laura Shepard come out and walk our property with us, and she gave us an 80-page document on things that could help our community. And that level of engagement is what I think we can strive for as a board, expanding that to the whole community. That's one of the reasons I'm running, is I think there needs to be more community engagement. I want to thank the Voice for putting this on, and I want to thank everybody for showing up and being involved. I think we need even more of that. So that's one of the reasons I'm running.
Jeff?
So what he said. And I love what you said, because it's the reason I'm here as well. My wife and I have been here in Estes Park since 2000, 25 years. We have built a number of homes here and renovated a number of homes here. My professional career, I've been in the oil and gas construction industry and the downstream end of it. So we did a lot of work in oil refineries and gas plants and pipeline systems all over the country, all over the world, actually. I came here, when I first came here in 1998, my wife dragged me here. She had worked at Craig's Lodge back in the 70s, I think, and she kept telling me about this place, and she brought me here, and, we stopped up at the Estes Monument up there, and I was like, oh, God, this is it. So I'm here, I'm retired from the oil and gas industry. I have time on my hands, and I should say I was on the Estes Valley Planning Commission, and I had to resign recently because we built a new home that is in the Estes Valley, so I couldn't continue to serve on that commission. And I just love this place, and my wife and I have been seriously involved in wildfire mitigation on some of the properties that we own, and I know that, first of all, dealing with we had that same assessment that you did, and the people that came out and did it were just consummate professionals, and I want to be able to support them in what they do, because it's, to say it's important is really trivial. It's much more than that. So thank you.
John?
Hello, I'm John Smith. I own High Plains Excavation and Aggregate. I own Cornerstone Concrete and a couple other businesses in between. I love our community, and I saw this as an opportunity for me to be a big part of the community. I've always loved firefighters. My wife brought me out here from Nebraska. I grew up in Eaton, but then I moved to Nebraska, and my boss in Nebraska was the chief of a volunteer fire department, and his son, which was also my boss, was assistant chief, and everybody that worked there was firefighters. So I got to know a little bit about fire departments. That's about it.
Very good. Thank you, gentlemen, and Sandra as well. So the first question I'm going to ask you is perhaps a softball question, but what is your perspective of the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion among department members as well as the board of directors? Sandra, do you want to take a first hit at this question about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion on a board, such as the Fire District Board?
Sure. Well, as the only female in the room right now, at least in terms of candidacies, I think that it would be a great thing because I think I could contribute a lot. However, I don't think the fact that I'm the only woman in the room is the thing that makes me a value add to the board. And so while I think that there is a place for DEI programs, both on in terms of board focus as well as staff focus, I also think it can be taken too far. And so I do think that from the standpoint of from a leadership standpoint, it's always good to have different perspectives. The more perspectives you can have, the more effective you can be, and the more you can be basically representative of the community at large. So I do think that diversity, equity, and inclusion are all very important to those ends. That you are representative of the community. That the community actually thinks that you're representative of them and they see you as representative of them, and you make an effort to ensure that you are in fact paying attention to the community in that regard.
Very good. Christopher, what about you? What about the DEI issues both within the staffing and also on the board? Is this an issue of concern or importance to you?
I think first off, it's communication, listening, talking with the people, being involved, whether it's in the fire department, the community, the different organizations. So yes, and yes, it is. I don't really have that much more to say for that question.
Robert, do you want to address the question?
Sure, I'll try to. It's kind of a hot potato now, isn't it? Sure, I agreed with what's been said so far, that diversity equity and inclusion are important. I think they do not predominate when a community has to elect people, and they do not predominate as qualities when a fire department has to choose people who are qualified for a particular well-defined task. That said, like Sandy said and Chris said, all other things being equal, I think that having a diverse and representative group of people on the board, as well as a diverse and representative group of people on the fire department, represent positive values, and I think that is something which we should encourage, but not at the expense, as I say, of the electoral process, and not at the expense of the quality and effectiveness of the fire department.
Ryan?
Yes, you asked two questions. One, was I concerned, and do you think it is important? No, I am not concerned. In the 8 years I've been involved, we've had members of all backgrounds, and I think we all get along well. I don't think that's ever been an issue or a concern. Do I think it's important? What I think is important is that we are merit-based as a paramilitary. It's about the job that can be done and the people that can do it. I think if we start distracting ourselves with DEI, unless it becomes an issue, unless it shows that it is not a fair and balanced system or community, then I think it could merit some importance. But as of now, I think that we have a great team, and I don't think that we have any issues with that.
Josh, what are your thoughts about the DEI issues?
You know, I think it's important. As he said, it is definitely an important issue. I am also not concerned. I think it's important that we take it as merit-based. But with that said, a diverse population of people live here, and taking their opinions and their thoughts and incorporating that into the board's thought process and their decision making is inclusive and important. It's not only our opinions that we're bringing to the table, it's also the opinions of the community at large, and they might be completely different than the people that are on the board. So it's not entirely what we think, it's what the community thinks and what the community needs, as well as the fire protection district needs. So there's a little more to it than just saying yes or no. I think it's important. I think it's taken into consideration, and that's what I have to say.
Jeff, can you weigh in on the issues of DEI within the?
Yeah,
Estes
so
Valley Fire Protection District?
so for me, I think that especially for an organization like this, that we to have a DEI program, within. I don't think it's necessary. I think we just all need to, at this point in our society and here in the Valley, need to be on the lookout for any discrimination and, make sure that that is not, something that, gets in the way. And I don't think, and I think it's really important that, DEI ideas and policies don't get in the way and compromise the election process or the quality of the people that that we bring into the department. We need to have the best of the best that are available to be here.
John, your thoughts about the roles of DEI on both board and with staffing issues?
I think it's pretty good from what I can see across the board. You look out at some of the firefighters we have right here. There's a lot of different individuals out here with different opinions and everything else, and I think it works pretty good. I don't think it's a problem as of right now.
I'm going to switch the order of things and start back here with John and go down the row the other way. This is sort of a twofold question. It's two that are going to be blended into one. and you can kind of pick and choose from these two blended questions as to how you want to approach the answer here. This first one is, how does the board address the issues of mental health and wellness among our firefighters? And what are the physical requirements of the Estes Valley Fire Protection District for staff and volunteers? And do we need to change those? Do we need to have any physical requirement changes? So this is kind of a question about mental health and physical health, physical capability of our firefighters. How does the board address the issues of mental health and wellness? And do we need to do anything different with the requirements, the physical requirements of our firefighters? John, your thoughts?
I don't think we need to change anything as far as the physical part of it goes. I think from what I've seen of the what our firefighters can and can't do, they have a bar that they have set, and I think everybody has to make that bar to get into it. And as far as the mental health goes, I think that, I don't know for a fact, but I think there are probably, I know a few firefighters, and they talk to each other, amongst each other, and handle any problems they're going through with each other. They're a pretty solid team.
Jeff, what about mental health issues? How does the board address those? Do they need to do anything different? And do we need to change anything about the physical requirements of our firefighters?
So I've seen those, I don't know if they're recruits or, actual volunteers that are, training, going around the Estes Park Trail, and they got weights on their back and packs on their back. And, I consider myself to be in pretty good shape, and I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it. So I think that those people are in pretty good shape physically. As far as the mental health issue, I frankly don't know what kind of programs are available for people, but I do know what kind of programs have been available in the corporate world. And if I were on the board and that became an issue, I would look into what kind of programs are available for these people to assist them in whatever they're dealing with.
Josh, your thoughts?
It's a pretty good answer. I agree completely. The physical, I'm not concerned with. Our firefighters, I've seen them carry those wildland fire packs. That's honestly impressive. I don't think that there's concern or need for change with the physical qualifications. The job needs what the job needs, and if that's physically fit, I think that's appropriate. As far as mental health goes, I'm honestly not sure what programs are available either, but if that's a need that the leadership in the fire department brings to the board, then that's our job to make available resources for what they need. That's, if they're telling us that's a need, then it's our responsibility to listen, address that, and make available what they need. So,
I think part of the question does absolutely go to the idea that first responders are have a high risk of issues and need support and wellness and mental health resources. So, Ryan, your thoughts?
Thank you, Patty. Actually, this is a good example of why I ran for the board. I think it's important that somebody that understands the department is part of the process in making decisions for the department. As for mental physical requirements, our physical requirements are tiered. So if you want to be involved and you're unable to, say, be an interior firefighter, you could also be an exterior firefighter. And if you don't meet those standards, there's an auxiliary program. So I don't think that they need to be addressed. I think that we've done it and been very inclusive to a lot of different people in that process. The mental health, there's a lot of different, we are exposed to some things that a lot of people aren't. We have a great mentorship program where we work together talk amongst ourselves. There's an after-action review every time where we can discuss. If it is, other people will reach out even further. There is a program called EAP that used to be available to our firefighters, and it is not currently. That's one of another thing that I would like to address when we get on. I'm not saying it's necessarily needed, but EAP is a it's a program that allows you to seek counseling completely confidentially. So if you have any questions or concerns or thoughts that you need to talk to somebody about, that's always available to you. There are other opportunities as well. If you've spoke to somebody and you need, okay. Oh, well, if you need it, there are resources there. I do think that there's an opportunity for some more and better resources as well. So, thanks.
Robert?
Thank you. I agree with everything that my predecessors here have said. Just a couple of points I'd make. The first one is that it is absolutely a board responsibility to ensure that the physical and mental health of the firefighters is being attended to. I think in the first instance, that's up to the training captain and the fire chief, and I would expect them to report to the board if they see any problems. I'm not aware presently of any problems physically, but I would expect a training captain and a chief to be aware and feel comfortable bringing it to the board. I also agree with what Ryan said about the availability of confidential avenue for those people who wish to speak without shame or derision. And I think that if that is not presently available, some kind of employee or worker assistance program should be made available in a way that respects the confidentiality of anybody who wants to take advantage of it. And that's it. Thank you.
Chris?
Talking about the wellness and mental, I do believe there are programs in place already. I see all the invoices, which I have to approve as a second person, and it's also being used. There is a program within the fire department where you can seek counsel and help.
Real quick, I think that's only available to the paid staff and not to volunteers.
Okay. And I also, when I see the camaraderie within the fire department, all in all, it's very good, and there's very good support. So yes, it's important, but I do think that there are things in place. Physical requirements, I agree with what everybody has said. There's training, certification, and also the auxiliary unit, which wouldn't be as rigorous. Thank you.
Sandy, do you want to speak about the issues of wellness and health and physical requirements for the firefighters? What are your thoughts as a potential board member about these issues?
Well, I think it very much is a matter of concern for the board. It is something that the board is responsible to ensure that our firefighters have the resources that they need for mental health and wellness. I think that also is something that will, depending on the kinds of situations they're dealing with, fluctuate over time. I mean, they see and experience a lot of things that, we in the ordinary community do not. And I think from time to time, various of them may find it necessary to seek additional someone to talk to about what they've seen or what they've experienced. I really feel very good about the mentorship program that the department has. I also think that the leadership is very effective in ensuring that certain issues rise to the level of the board, so the board is aware of them and has the opportunity to deal with them. I think that needs to continue. And so I think it is very important that the board pay attention to and ensure that the staff pays attention to the mental health and wellness of all the firefighters. From what I have seen of the training program, I think the training program is very rigorous. It is something that I've been amazed by as I also have seen them out doing their work, so it's pretty amazing what they do. I'm very impressed with them, very proud of them. And one of the things I love about this particular department and all the volunteer firefighters, just how community oriented they are, how much they love our community, how much they care about and support each other. And I think that that is just a very unique and important aspect to this particular department.
The next question that we've got, and I think what we should do is go down the road again. I appreciate that gives you each a chance to sort of hear the other people and then think about it. So maybe we should start in the middle, but we're going to start on the end again because I can keep track that way. So this is a more difficult question. The fire district is currently on its third fire chief in the last 2 years. And one fire chief only lasted for 3 months. As a board member, why is this, do you think? And what is concerning to you about this situation? Why or why not? John, any thoughts about the fact that we've had 3 fire chiefs in 2 years?
I'm not really sure why we've had 3 fire chiefs in 2 years. It's not for everybody. I feel pretty confident in the fire department that we have currently, and I want to see where they go. I'm not going to take a step backwards. I want to go forwards.
So I have heard some things, you know, that are third, fourth, fifth, and sixth hand about what happened with the 2 fire chiefs that, you know, left in the past. And then, you know, I heard that the fire chief that we have now actually is very, seems to be, from all accounts, very competent. I think that when you see something like that, you know, happen where, you know, either someone is relieved of their duty and then someone comes in and then they quit, or they're relieved of their duty, you know, you really have to look at the vetting process.
Very good. Josh, your thoughts?
I honestly find it very concerning. You know, the fact that we've had such churn in that leadership role means that there is a lack of consistency within the fire department, and that is honestly that's very bad. You want a role that will be, you know, you want someone in that role that is going to stick around, that is going to, you know, see their plans through, and that's not what we've had for a variety of reasons, whether it's, you know, contentiousness with the board and the community, and, you know, things that, you know, butting heads, things like that. I'm hopeful that we have a current fire chief that will stick around. It does seem to be working well.
Ryan, your thoughts?
I actually knew all 3 of those chiefs, and all 3 of them were very competent firefighters. One thing is that we're a unique town here with unique needs, and I think finding the person that has the same direction as our community and recognizes the needs of our community and then is honest in implementing those, I think is important. There's also making sure that that role is supported, but not isn't the only driving force in the conversation. One of the things that we have lacked during all 3 of these chiefs were elected board officials, and I think that that's been a huge detriment to our community. I'm glad to see 10 candidates up here, and I think that if the community gets to choose their candidate, I think we'll have a lot better opportunity to give the support to the chief that we have, or whatever chief we do have in the future. So, thank you.
Robert?
Absolutely, it's of concern, but I can't say what the problem was, if anything, without being, you know, without having access to information I don't have access to. And if the current chief continues for a while, then the problem may self-resolve. I agree with Ryan that an elected board probably makes sense in this circumstance, and if the board decides that the concern is present and not just in the past, as John suggested, then the board should undertake the same kind of rigorous after-action report or lessons learned after-action investigation that Ryan referred to for fire response and anything else. I do think that the board may not have historically been willing to engage in the kind of self-examination that would produce some answers and would respond to appropriate community concern about the change in fire chiefs. And I would hope that a board that is elected, as Ryan says, would be responsive to that very real concern that the community has. But to actually give a reason now without more, I think would be speculative and inappropriate.
Thank you. Christopher? And I have to tell you, I have a son named Christopher, so I always call him Christopher. So that's why I just did that to you. So I know you said you prefer Chris, but Christopher. go ahead.
Christopher is fine too. Doesn't matter to me that much. When I was appointed to the board in the summer, 5 days later, Chief Lasky left, and it was weird because it was just one day after another. Nobody really knew why. So what I do know is stability is important. We want long-term a fire chief, and the process we had now with finding Chief Capo was rigorous. We included the community, internal, the fire department. I think we did a good job here, and we have an excellent fire chief in place. We should be happy to have someone like this. I'm really pleased about this, and we need to continue supporting the Paul Capo to make sure that we can keep him as long as possible. I'm hoping he's going to be here for many, many years.
Thank you. Sandy, can you also address this question as well?
Yes, so I agree that with what has been said already, that Chief Capo seems to be a very, very effective chief, and I really do hope that we can continue to support him and make him as successful as possible. I do, however, think that having that kind of leadership transition that much over such a short period of time is a failure of leadership, and it's a failure of leadership of the board. I think that effective management, board level management, requires more communication and clear communication than I've seen, more transparency, accountability, collaboration in terms of teamwork and open, clear guidelines, and communication back and forth with staff and the board, and investment by the board in ensuring that the stability that the department needs is there. Because if we have that much transition, we lose our institutional knowledge. We have people coming in and flailing around because they don't have the information that they need, or there's just been too much transition. So at the end of the day, it was a failure of leadership. It does seem to have been course corrected. I do think that Chief Capo seems to be very, very effective at his job, and I think that the board needs to support him. And to do so, it needs to do the things that I just talked about.
Thank you. The next question I'm going to ask is also a hybrid of two other questions that were submitted, and this has to do with the balance of our volunteers, our professional volunteer firefighters, and our full-time firefighters, and the mill levy. In order to support a more paid staff people, we would need more revenue. We currently have a fire department that runs on an annual budget of about $3 million, or just a little under $3 million annually. Sandy, beginning with you, what do you think from a future perspective do we need to do to have the right balance between a paid volunteer or paid full-time staff and also volunteer professional firefighters who are paid when they go out on service calls? And do we need to have a new conversation about mill levy in order to support an increase in our budget?
So, you know, it is incredibly expensive to have a fully paid fire department, fully paid staff. We have a very, very effective group of volunteer firefighters that are incredibly well trained and very devoted to this community and to each other. And I really don't see that there is an imbalance right now. I mean, perhaps we could use a little bit more in terms of staff, but in terms of paid firefighters, I just think that when you start having more paid firefighters, you have sort of a difference in how they treat each other. We have right now a very, very good balance, and we have a very effective volunteer firefighter team. And I do think that it's just incredibly expensive to try to increase the number of paid staff to accomplish something that I'm not so sure we really need, because we really have an effective force as it is.
Chris, your thoughts?
I agree pretty much everything that was just said. I think we have a good balance. We need both. I think it's unrealistic that you would have only a paid staff. We have excellent, well-trained, well-schooled volunteers. We have a good paid staff. I think we're pretty much we're in a good path, and I think we should continue. I understand that there are always conflicts about the cost, the taxes, and all these things. So I think we should continue in a similar fashion as we are now.
Thank you. Robert?
First of all, I think that the determination of the existence of the mix between paid and volunteer is a board responsibility. But that said, and as I said earlier on, I completely support the mix of paid and volunteer. And I think that's a very different question from the mill levy question. As Sandy said, a full-time paid fire department is enormously expensive. The status quo, what we have now, is very responsive to our seasonal needs, and that further supports the idea of having volunteers as well as a few paid people, because if we had a full-time paid staff that we would sort of have to mothball during part of the year, that would be a ridiculous and unsupportable use of tax funds. So from my outside point of view, and I'll yield to Ryan on this question, from my outside point of view, it looks like the status quo generally works, and I think it makes sense financially as well. Now, on the mill levy question, if we need more money, then we should try to get it in a way that the public will support. But I don't think I could get behind a mill levy to support a permanent fire department of paid individuals today.
Thank you. Ryan, your thoughts?
Could you repeat your question?
Yes. It has to do with the balance between a professional volunteer fire department and a full-time fire department. Do we have the right mix? Do we need to increase our numbers of full-time? And in order to do that, would we need to increase our mill levy?
Well, first I want to clarify that we don't have any paid operations. All operations, all firefighting is done on a volunteer basis. Even our paid staff, oftentimes when they are responding, unless they've left their office hours, are responding on volunteer time. And we have an amazing volunteer department. Should we evaluate whether it needs to be expanded? Always. Do I think it needs right now? I don't. Unless something changes or somebody convinces me otherwise. When that time comes and we need to, it's something that we have to balance very carefully to make sure that we don't lose the support of the volunteers as we bring in, if we were to bring in any paid operations. So I think it's a great setup now. And if we were going to go for a mill levy, like anytime we're going to go for a mill levy, first we have to justify the money, and then we have to justify it to the public, and they get to decide whether that needs to be or not.
That's well said. I also do not support changing to a full paid staff. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's not a fiscally responsible thing for this board to be advocating for. We have an incredibly well-trained and well-equipped fire team that is volunteers, and it works well. Seasonality would require us to staff up to a huge paid staff of firefighters. And then in the winter, when the tourists are gone and the population declines, are we going to mothball that? I don't see this as a good use of resources. With regard to the mill levy question specifically, we would definitely have to justify it. And if we're talking about increasing everybody's taxes, we would have to show what they're getting. And right now, we have a pretty extraordinary firefighting team that does a great job already. I don't know that we could justify spending a lot more money for paid staff doing the equivalent. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff?
So, I have to just accede to the three gentlemen over there that already have the experience in the department. If, they say that the department is running really well right now the way it is, then, going to the public and asking for money is just, is a losing proposition, if you ask me. So, if something were to change and the fire department needed more money, whether it be for needed mill levy money for more people, for another facility, for whatever it is, then that's something that we would need to address and justify to the public in such a way that they could see that there's benefit for them in doing that.
John, do you want to weigh in on the question about volunteers and full-time and the balance between the two and whether or not the community should consider a mill levy increase?
I agree with pretty much everything that was said here. If my house is on fire, I'd rather have a volunteer team there. I've been around both a little bit, and the paid ones, there's an arrogance about them, and it turns into not my job. The volunteer ones are there because it's in their heart.
I have one final question that I'd like to ask you to consider as part of wrapping up with a final statement, okay? And because we'd like you to leave with whatever final thoughts you might have, but in doing that, in coming onto a board and being elected to a board, that at this point, every single person on the current board effectively has been appointed to the board, not stood for election and been elected to the board. So right now we're looking at the potential of a fully elected board. Coming into a board that has had some challenges with a lot of turnover, and we've also had turnover within our fire chief situation over the last 3 years. What is your role as a board member for stability in this organization? And what do you see as also the importance of transparency and accountability to the community? John, you want to, he's just rolling his eyes like, oh, that's a big question. So as a board member, how do you see your role coming into a board, providing stability, helping a board that has previously been, for the last couple years, everybody's been appointed that's currently sitting on the board? What's your role? What's the whole board's role in stability going forward? And what's the board's role in transparency and accountability to the community?
I would say that we need to just, as a board, we're, let me think about that. Man, a few words here. I think the board needs to come together to support the fire department in any way they can. That doesn't mean they get everything they want. Transparency to the public. I think everybody should know what's going on at all times because we are all a part of this. We all pay our taxes. We all, do our part to make it happen to where we can have the equipment we need. Yeah, that's There you go.
I agree with John. I just add a couple of things. We are, as the board, we are the, stewards of public money. So the community has to know what we're doing, and this whole issue that's come up, in the last few months about following the sunshine laws. We just have to do that and make sure that the public is fully aware of what we're doing. And the other part of it is, I'll pat myself on the back. I was really successful as a leader in the oil and gas industry, and that's because I took care of the guys that, were out there in the oil refineries or whatever, and I made sure they had what they needed to get their jobs done. And whether it was equipment or whether it was mentoring or, whatever it might be, I think that's really important that the board takes that on and makes sure that, those guys that are the tip of the spear and keeping us safe have what they need to get the job done.
Josh?
So the question was, what's our role in stability, transparency, and accountability? That's what the board exists for. Our job is to listen to the community, to the volunteers, the staff that are paid, all of the community members and the board. They play a role in dictating what resources the fire department gets. You got to justify it to the community. We also have to listen to the fire board or the fire department and respond to what they are telling us they need. That's, stability. Having an elected board provides a bit of stability, even if it's complete turnover. It provides the community with the knowledge that their will is actually being enacted by the board, rather than appointing, and it's not contended. As well as transparency is important. The community has to know what we're doing. They have to know we have their best interests in mind with every decision, and that we are accountable ultimately through the elections. Yeah.
Ryan?
I guess my thought of my role as a board member would be a liaison to the community. If elected by the community, I would represent the community to make sure that the fire department is not only fulfilling the community needs, but is fiscally responsible in that process. But at the same time, I have a responsibility to support the staff and volunteers of the fire district to make sure that they have what they need in order to achieve the goals that the community has set forth. So, and as for transparency, that's an easy one. There's no guesswork. It's laid out in law. All public boards do their business in public. There's very specific reasons why we can not include the public in our conversation or in the information that we have. And from that information, we can make decisions, but it has to all be inside of the public. So that's all I got.
Robert?
I agree with what's been said by my predecessors here. I would just add that although much has been made of the fact that the current board has no members who are elected, an unelected board isn't necessarily an ineffective board. It isn't necessarily composed of people with ill will or people who don't intend what's best. It isn't necessarily composed of people who are incompetent or who won't do just as good a job as those people who are elected. And I just want to make that point because I think that it's really easy to criticize the past board, and I think they made a lot of mistakes that I'm hoping the current board, meaning the elected board after May, won't make. But I think it's wrong also to simply attack them simply because they weren't elected. The reason why we have an unelected board is largely because the elected board quit midterm instead of following the process. That's not the fault of any of the people who were appointed. That said, I agree with Josh that the items that were identified in the question, the civility, the transparency, these are all things that are absolutely board responsibilities, and I would hope that an elected board, as any board, and certainly any board I would be a part of, would take these responsibilities very seriously and do the best that it could to honor its first and most important goal and responsibility, which is to support the community and the fire department.
Chris?
A lot of things have been said, which makes sense. I do want to. I would like to point out that Dave Hamrick, who is currently on the board, he was elected but ran unopposed. So, also, I would like to say that I was appointed, and it's been now since the summer last year. These people on the board, they're good people, they're smart people, and they're caring people. It's a pleasure working with them. I think obviously the stability, the transparency is always the transparency. I think we are transparent. We're transparent as water. I know not everybody agrees with this, and we've had some issues, but I think it's been extremely transparent. Now we have an election, and it's up to the community where we go here, but I wouldn't see it too negative, as you also said. Good people in place.
Sandy, what about transparency and accountability and the role of this board going forward for stability?
So as a board member, I mean, the way I look at this, we have a fiduciary duty. We have a fiduciary duty to the community of people that elect us, who the taxpayers who pay taxes to support our department. We have a fiduciary duty, a higher duty of care to our volunteers and our staff. And when I say we have a fiduciary duty, I mean that we have a very high standard of care, a very high standard that we need to meet to be both transparent, accountable to all of those stakeholders and partners and taxpayers and volunteers, everyone. We have a very high duty to manage and steward the financial resources effectively and well. And we have a very high duty to maintain statutory compliance, which means adhering to the open meetings laws, which means not doing anything in executive session or private session, except to the extent that that is allowed statutorily. And there are only certain limited circumstances under which that is allowed. And we also have a duty to engage in effective management, to manage effectively. And managing effectively means being transparent. It means being accountable. It means being collaborative. And it means investing in your department, investing in your people, investing in your board, investing your time, your talents, and everything else to ensure that you're meeting those duties. So that's how I would answer that.
This kind of brings our panel discussion, our forum to a close this afternoon. Oh, Susie was reminding me, are there any questions from the audience that anyone wants to pose before we wrap this up this evening, this afternoon, I should say? Anyone?
I was just wondering if you could point out so we could put a name and a face to what terms that they're seeking. Just a really super easy question.
Very good. Sandra Smith is running for a 2-year term on the board. Chris is a 2-year term and is currently serving on the board right now. Robert is running for a 4-year term a 2-year term on the board. Ryan, you are a 4-year term, right? You're 2. I'm going to let them talk. That's right. You said that earlier. Joshua Leeds is also 2 years. Jeff is 4 years. And John is 4 years. I'm going to let Susie close us out here, but before I do, I want to thank 3 of our team members that are here with us tonight. We have an intern here. Audrey, stand up for a second. I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm really excited to introduce to you Audrey Bryce. Audrey's been writing for us this semester. She's a student from the University of Colorado Boulder in the journalism department, and she will graduate next month and will probably string for us some this summer, we hope, right? Very good. I also want to introduce Barb Boyer-Buck, who's one of our senior writers. She does most of our community affairs reporting. So I wanted to thank her. She's been our timekeeper, and she brought a friend with her this afternoon who's also been helping. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone over to Susie.
But before we do that, I think we have some closing remarks from our panel. I don't think we've done that. So with that, have we done that, guys? I don't think so. Chris, would you like to start? Oh, okay. Sandy, we'll start with you. They have all said it's your turn first. Closing remarks.
Gee, thanks, guys. I just want to say that I started out this process not to compete with anyone to be on the board or do anything like that. I just believe that I saw a situation that I believed I could help. This is a community that I love. I first visited Estes Park in 1995, and I fell in love with the town and its residents. And it took me almost 30 years to get here on a full-time basis as a permanent resident, but that was always my goal. And so it's my goal to stay and to help the EVFPD protect the community that it serves. And it is my hope that you'll vote for me to do that.
Chris?
Before you time me here, please. I need to get back just very briefly about this mental. John, is it correct that only the paid staff have support? Because I thought I saw an invoice also where it was somebody from not a paying staff. Could you confirm that? It's available. Okay.
EAP? EAP is?
Okay. Thanks, John. All right, now you can start, and I'll try to keep it within the 2 minutes. I mean, you can see I have prepared a little bit something. I've put some thought into these different topics, and I am passionate about this. Serving on the fire board has made me realize what a great organization we have here. The volunteers are a well-trained, motivated team who are always ready to respond and risk their time and sacrificing their time and risking their lives to keep Estes Park safe. The staff is professional, knowledgeable, and caring. And with Paul Capel, we have an excellent fire chief in place. We are on the right track, even after some turbulence, and it is my goal to see stability brought back to all the branches of the fire department. My interest on being the board is altruistic. I have no financial gain. There's no conflict of interest. It's all about keeping Estes Valley safe. The people, the wildlife, the vegetation. That's what's important for me. And to reduce the risk of fire outbreak and wildfire, fire prevention, very important for the community environment. Meanwhile, operationally, the best trained firefighters with the best equipment to tackle any kind of fire is a key pillar as well. I'm dedicated to ensure that the Estes Valley Fire Protection District continues to thrive and serve our Estes Valley community with excellence and integrity. Thank you.
Robert?
I'm a great guy. And all of the people who are running for this are great people, and we would all, individually or collectively, make great board members. So this is my program. I started out by my spoiler alert, and I'll finish up with my spoiler alert as well. These are the things that I stand for. These are things that if something you want, you should elect me or somebody else who stands for these things. First, the board exists to serve the fire department and the public and not itself. And in that regard, it should be transparent and not engage in secret proceedings, to say nothing of fighting them in court. Secondly, I support a mix of paid and volunteer people, as has been discussed previously. Third, I believe it's important for the board to encourage the fire department and to support educating the public on what the fire department does. It's a good deal more than just responding to structure fires. I have seen it and photographed it myself, as many of you know, and I think it's important for the public to realize how broad the support that the fire department gives to this community really is. Fourth, I want to have the board support the fire department's focus on education and prevention, and all of the various things that includes, as well as what everybody's familiar with, namely a defensible space. And fifth, I want to see the board support the fire department generally in the community in every way that it can, again, such as in the provision of mental health, if that turns out to be something that's important to the fire department. And as a board member, I would look to the fire department members individually and to their leaders for direction there on what would best support them. Thank you.
Ryan?
First of all, I'd like to just thank you for the opportunity to come and talk to you guys today, throw my hat in the ring. Whether I'm elected to this position or not, I will be at the fire department. So I'm in for the long haul. I also want to make sure to say, after these guys' comments about boards, that anybody that serves on a board is dedicating their time, and it's even if we don't agree with their perspective or direction, they're still just trying to make their community better through efforts that they are able to make. And I appreciate everybody that was on the boards before. I hope I wasn't derogatory when I said that they weren't elected. I just know that an elected board can often be somewhat biased or directional when when a select group chooses the people. So not that anybody had any ill intentions or did a bad job. I appreciate everything you guys have done. I also have served on several boards in town and currently serve on another board. So I think it's good when we actually don't all agree on something. Groupthink, I don't think, is the answer, and I don't think it's a good representation of our community. So thanks for the opportunity today.
Josh?
All right. So I want to first say thank you to the rest of the board members or candidates for participating today, as well as the community for showing up. Community engagement is huge. I realized that I forgot to introduce, at least in the intro, some of my background. I work in title insurance for real estate, and that is super boring. But it has also yeah, it's very funny. It is boring, but it requires an attention to detail, and it requires that you work with a whole bunch of different people in a transaction. And some of them butt heads, and some of them don't get along. And part of my success in my career is that I have always found middle ground. I don't approach situations having a mind made up in advance. I listen, and I take in the information, and I keep an open mind. With regard to this board, I had a couple of friends put a bug in my ear about it, saying they thought I'd be good at it. And they're right. I think I'd be very good at this. I saw a situation that I thought I could help, and I still do. So that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Jeff?
So, once again, thank you to everyone for being here. Special thanks to Patty and Susie for putting this together. I think it's a really valuable event to, get to know us and hear what we have to say about some of these questions. As far as the fire department goes, I haven't had a lot of personal involvement with them, other than, to have them out to my house and my neighborhood to do wildfire assessments. And, I just got to say that they were such consummate professionals and really knew their stuff. And I was struck by how committed they are to, just making sure that everyone is safe. So, having said that, one of the things that I know that I would like to bring to the board is to do more, promote more of the outreach to the public, because while the fire department really is the tip of the spear in protecting us from wildfires and whatever else they protect us from, they cannot operate in a vacuum. Letting everybody in this valley know that they really need to pitch in and take care of their properties and make sure that there's defensible space there. Right down the street from me, I feel like I'm staring down the barrel of a gun. I've got, a bunch of junipers and pines that are not, haven't been taken care of. And if there were a fire, it would, roll right up that hill and burn my house down. And so that's what I'm committed to, is getting the community involved as well.
John?
Oh.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thanks for the opportunity. I hope if elected, I can't wait to serve on the board and be a good member to our community, which is needed.
Thank you all for this, for the words that you have given us this afternoon and your thoughts and your hopes. I thank the audience for being here to hear what they have had to say and to share with us. Your attendance has made this a successful afternoon. I want to thank the town of Estes Park for allowing us to have this forum on a Sunday, which is totally an abnormal thing for the town to do. We need to let them know how much we appreciate it. With a round of applause, please. I also want to personally thank Travis. Without him, it would not have happened. We needed a town employee to babysit. And he said, without hesitation, I will do that. I don't care if he's getting overtime. And for our friend in the booth who is recording all of this so that we can put it on our website, we thank you also. So with that, we're finishing a little bit. It's a tough life. Here.
And I do not have an explanation. We reached out to Steve Ferranti, but we don't know. We haven't heard back. So anyway, all of the candidates have been given an opportunity to submit written answers to us, along with to the Estes, the League of Women Voters of Estes Park. Those will all be published tomorrow. Thank you again for coming, and have a really good rest of your afternoon and evening.